All right. Hello, hello. We are live, sirs.
Cool. Hey guys, how are you?
People are still rolling in. Probably take a few
Awesome.
minutes here, but thought they'd give them something to look at.
Very cool. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining in. Super excited for this. Excited to see who's gonna take the championship.
Do we have a favorite? Is there like a community favorite?
I don't know, actually. It's a good question. I hope RG and Yeshi won't mind me referring to both of them as kind of underdogs in this competition. They both had some good upsets in the semifinals, and I think it's going to be close. I don't know if there's a favorite between these two. I'm excited to see how they both show up today.
Everyone likes to be an underdog, I think, right? Especially if they know they're good.
Agreed. Everybody loves an underdog story, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, hey, they made it this far. That's for sure.
Yeah, so it's Yeshi and RG. Are those the two?
Yes.
Cool.
Okay, so those are the only two, right? So these are the finals just between them two, and is it best of 3?
Yeah, correct. So the way it's set up is a best of 3. First 2 wins. Top score is kind of the score that matters here. Should I go through kind of a list of what we should be looking for in their scores? Like what kind of gets them that top score now, or would we like to do that later? What do you guys think?
Well, why don't we back up 2 shakes and why don't we just introduce ourselves and then introduce the game itself, and then we'll give them the tournament brief here. So my name's Eli, community lead at the Arbitrum Foundation. You're one of your co-hosts for the day. And Jay, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. I'm the live ops coordinator for Treasure, so you guys will be seeing me doing, tournaments, live ops, live events, and being gonna be doing a lot of the creator things. So like the Treasure Create and just hanging out with some of these games. I'm gonna try to make some videos and try to have some fun today. Super excited for this one, and yeah, I'm glad everyone's kind of showing up, and it's great to be here with Eli. I feel like I've seen a couple of your streams before, and I'm glad to be on this one, and I'm excited to see some gameplay from Knights of the Ether.
Which ones did you see? The beacon tourney?
Yeah, that was probably it.
The very first one.
Yeah, and I love the beacon, so I think that's kind of what drew me into it too. I've got a few assets in there, and kind of decked out my house a little bit. So
I don't even think of them as assets. There's
that's fair.
Little sprites.
I saw somebody actually airdropped me like a random player. I don't know who it was or where it came from, but
like
I
a
just
founding
opened my
character.
wallet. Yeah, a new one.
I did a holiday airdrop when they had the Christmas sprites, and I just did a giveaway for each of the little gifts and stuff you can get there.
Oh, that's cool. That's super cool. And yeah, I tried to when they had that big event, I started getting some things for the house, and I went through the dungeon a few times, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna spend some magic here, and I got into the shop and bought a few things for the house and tried to make it aesthetically pleasing.
I haven't checked my house in a while. I wonder how it's doing. I hope it doesn't imagine if they added a feature if you haven't been on in a while, they just add like cobwebs and dirt and stuff.
If it gets raided or something.
Yeah. You have to
kind of like the heavy metal. I don't know if you guys have played the Yuga game, where if you leave your robot for too long, he starts kind of like spitting up oil all over your tiles in your game. So.
No, I haven't, but I've seen games where if you don't upkeep your stuff, it's always like live in real time, even if you're not online. I think that's a cool thing.
That's kind of like the pet thing. I think that's smart actually for Yuga too, because it keeps people engaged, and it's kind of like like Clash of Clans or something, and it needs to rebuild. You need to get online for it to rebuild, like your base to rebuild, and then you can continue playing and continue gathering resources. So I feel like that definitely makes sense.
No, totally. I think it's like an incentivizing retention gameplay. And so you're always set up to I need to check in each day. I have to go pet my robot. I need to go clean up all the oil spills. Got to make sure I'm getting more energy. So it's smart from a casual game perspective of keep people coming back and enjoying the game. Yeah.
Fluke, we overlooked you. Give a little intro.
Yeah, that's all right, guys. You guys were having a great conversation, so I thought I'd just hang out for a little bit. Yeah, so my name's Fluke or Adam. I'm the co-founder of Knights of the Ether, and this game we're about to watch today is the finals of Knights of the Ether Blightfell, our deck building roguelike game. These two players have come from 16 kind of finalists, which were from the first 2 weeks of our leaderboards. During this Midsummer Madness event we're running right now, which is a 3-week event ending tomorrow. So it's been a long journey for these two to get here. I'm excited to see how they play today.
It's really exciting. No, that's awesome. Very excited to see how they do. And you said so they're going to be jumping into maps that are going to be identical. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. So the way we have these tournament maps set up is we have the ability to kind of change maps. We've changed the map every single day for the past 3 weeks for our Midsummer Madness tournament. And so for this map, it's a single line, a single kind of row of, I want to say it's 10 different nodes with, I think, 6 different monster fights. So they're playing the same monsters, but they have different choices of how they're going to upgrade their cards, which card rewards they're going to take at the end of each battle. And also there's kind of a bit of an RNG element based on what are the cards that they get drawn each time that they kind of shuffle their cards after playing them, and what are the enemy intents that cycle through. I'll maybe talk about that a little bit more in depth when we have it up on the screen, but so there's kind of a good amount of things that the players have in their control, and then there's a good amount of things that they have to also kind of deal with on the fly.
Fluke, on the topic of RNG, are you guys using like on-chain randomness, or is it just within the gaming backend?
Yeah, no, it's just within the gaming backend itself. Pretty much all of the gameplay in Blightfell happens off-chain. The only kind of on-chain integration at this point is loading in your characters and the different gear pieces that you can then earn from playing those characters, and then you can, withdraw those pieces out onto the chain, sell them on Treasure Marketplace, or you can go buy cool new gear pieces on Treasure Marketplace and deposit it back into the game. That was kind of a decision we had to make early on, was how much of this game do we want to be on chain? We had the ability to say, hey, we could do more of this on chain. Arbitrum has super low gas fees. We have the ability to integrate more of that, and we'll look towards that. It's a kind of an ethos question of how much do we want to lead with chain and how much do we want to lead with gameplay, and how can we integrate both of those? And so finding that good balance is like an evolving conversation within our team, and I think within the industry as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely more feasible on Nova to have like almost everything on chain. There's some games doing that where it's like, seamless on-chain transactions, but yeah, it's there's no rules to it in Web3 gaming, and hopefully it'll be as seamless as just downloading a game on Steam one day and you won't even
I'm looking forward to that for sure.
What a crypto wallet
how would you say teams who maybe want to move from Arbitrum 1 to Nova, like what is that process like? Have you shepherded any teams through that process so far?
That's a good question. I don't think anyone's gone from one to Nova that I can think of. I think they've come from other chains to Nova, like Polygon or AVAX or even Ethereum. But I know it's possible because we've told teams that we can facilitate that. So yeah, that's something we'd love to discuss with games, with some of our engineers, and if it makes sense for the long term of a game's development, then that's something we would definitely help facilitate, because it is cheaper and faster on Nova just because is built for that purpose.
For sure, and I think there is something to be said about like on-chain randomization is hard, right? But it's also transparent in a sense that like people can see at least not how the randomization is done so that they can hack it, but they can see like here's how it's built into the game. And I understand that it's not this kind of black box of like gaming engines where they say it's a 20% drop, but I feel like I'm only getting this 10% of the time. Like that's kind of an issue in the larger gaming space.
You feel like you're getting scammed in Web2 gaming RNG.
Say again.
You feel like you're getting scammed sometimes in Web2 RNG systems. You feel like they have their own overriding systems where like if you're doing really well for a long time, they want to like counter it. That's what it feels like, at least.
No, I agree, and I think most gamers have experienced some form of that. So the whole idea of kind of building with blockchain tech into the game is to be kind of more transparent and co-create with the community more. So all that we can do to kind of show that transparency and share that with the community, I think the better. So something to be said for that.
Sweet. Shall we bring up the competitors here? See what it's on their screen right now.
I think we should.
Let's do it.
Here they are.
And on the topic of the RNG, I feel like that it's tough to say because, percentages in general are never, exact. So if you're looking at, 20% on average, I mean, what's on average? What is 20%? Like trying to get that to be exact every single time, I feel like it kind of could take away the creativeness of it, like getting those bad RNG pulls. I mean, that's kind of part of it, right? Like if you bring this kind of, a little bit of an unrelated genre, but like Valorant and those kinds of games, you see those games like CS:GO, people say they hate their games, but they play 40 hours a week of that game. Same with a lot of TCGs like Hearthstone, they're going to say that they hate the game because of the RNG, but it keeps bringing them back.
I retired from Hearthstone many years ago.
Yeah,
because of the RNG.
I think you're right, Jay. I think there's something to be said about like the joy of surprise or like subverted expectations in gaming when it comes to like, especially, like loot drops and things like that. And on 20%, maybe on like a large enough scale, across all the players is what it averages out to, but it might not feel like that for the individual player. And so it's interesting to kind of lean into, you don't want everything to be as transparent as possible for the gamer because it might not make it a fun experience. Like there should be that kind of unknown for some things. So it's a question for game design is like, what do you tell the player and what do you let the player like in on at the same time? Yeah. All in the service of a better experience.
And it depends if we're talking like PvP RNG or just, open world PvE where it's like loot drops and things like that, because with loot drops it's more about scarcity and rarity, and you don't want everyone to just all have the best gear all at once. There is some roll of the dice like in Dungeons and Dragons, but in PvP it's hella frustrating.
So Fluke, really quick, I can see, there's a big difference between the two screens that we have on stream right now. You can see one has a ton of armor and one looks like he doesn't have any. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So both of these guys are playing as like the basic default villager, and this is the villager you can play as without minting anything. Just go right into our game and connect your wallet and you just play as this free guy. And we've put some pieces of armor and weaponry into the armory just so you can mess around with those as a first-time player to see how the gear system works, to deck out your character if you'd like. So on the left here, we have, I believe that is that's RG, and he's just gone through and kind of put on all the default gear on his default villager, whereas on the right-hand side, Yeshi has not yet. And so that's kind of the difference you're seeing there. And then if you were to mint a blessed villager, or if you own a knight, you have all of these different gear pieces that you can then swap on and off. And as you play the game, you get more of these gear pieces that you can mix and match on your character. Right now, they're only cosmetic. It's just like, I don't know, someone put this on Twitter. They said it's like Barbie for savages, and I just love that quote. So right now, it's only cosmetic. It doesn't change anything in the game except the way you look. But in the future, it will be there will be buffs associated with each gear piece.
Nice. Right now, it's just cosmetic, which is more than enough for a lot of gamers. But it will be cool when they do have stats, because we love that in RPGs.
Yeah, all the fun builds, finding the metas. It's always a good time.
All right, so it is a best 2 out of 3 today. So Fluke, on your command, you can give these guys the go-ahead to start, and we'll keep doing our thing.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess I'll just launch into the rules real quick here. So, best 2 out of 3. Top score is what matters. They're both playing the same map. We'll have them start at the same time here in just a moment. And as they go, we'll talk about the mechanics, and we'll see how they do.
Super exciting. Let's do it.
do it. Game one. Just to clarify, RG is here on the left, and Yeshi is on the right.
Yeah, correct. All right, guys, you can start whenever you're ready.
It's a good thing it's not a speed run.
There is a bit of a speed run component to it. You get 1 extra point for each minute below 60 minutes that you complete the run in. So 20 seconds might make a little bit of a difference, but a few minutes definitely makes a point difference.
I guess I mean speed run in the sense like against each other. It's internally, so that's fine.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, they don't have to start at the exact same time. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, got started a little bit later there.
All right.
Yeah, so these guys are going to move pretty quickly to start. I'll try to do my best to explain some of these cards as they go. The way it works is that each player gets 5 cards in their hand. They're fighting against different monsters that have these different intents on the right-hand side. Like you can see the blue monster on the right-hand side is doing 5 times 2 damage. And then you can see now 2 of them are about to do defense on the right-hand side. That eye logo on the left-hand side there above the plant, that is like a buff or a debuff. So it'll either buff itself or debuff the opponent.
So the cards they got at the beginning were randomized, or each one starts with the same kind of like starter deck?
Yeah, they have the same starter deck, and then as they go, they're going to get card rewards at the end of each battle, and they'll also go to a merchant shop where they'll be able to kind of upgrade their deck, add new cards, remove cards, and so we'll see their decks kind of morph away from one another over the course of the game here. But they do start with the same. Yeah.
So I played this a couple times, even in the earlier development. Has a lot changed in the last few months with some of the game design and mechanics?
Yeah, I would say in the last 2 months, not a lot has changed, but in the last 6 months, a lot has changed. I think the last 2 months we spent a lot of time kind of setting up the infrastructure, polishing things up, getting ready for the Midsummer Madness tournament. But we launched into kind of alpha like for only our night holders in January, and so there's been a lot of changes since then. A lot of changes to cards, potions, items. Right now, there's only 1 stage of the game available, but there will eventually be 3. So we're still kind of at this, demo vertical slice place. So the game is changing pretty quickly as we go. And we're excited to continue to kind of add more development features once the Midsummer Madness is over here in 1 day.
So does it look like, is that RG that is advancing?
Looks like Yeshi is the one who is
Yeshi.
In the merchant right now. So this is where you can kind of get a large array of things to choose from. So right now he's upgrading a card. He bought a card. And he's upgrading 1 more card. Yeah.
And so, as you can see, like for someone who may not know what's really going on for the cards here, at the end of each round, the cards that are not used or the energy that is not spent, is that just discarded and thrown back into the deck?
Yeah, for sure. So if you don't use a card like at the bottom of your screen there, once you're out of energy, that's going to go into your discard pile. All cards, whether played or unplayed, go into the discard pile. And then once your draw pile on the left-hand side there is empty, all of the discard pile cards shuffle back into your draw pile to be drawn again.
And to talk about these monsters really quick, what was the inspiration for some of this art?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we worked with this really cool art studio. Shout out Volta. They've worked on some amazing stuff like Mass Effect, Halo, Battlefield, and we worked really closely in concert with a few of their concept artists and gave them kind of the inspiration behind the environment, which is this kind of blight infested, thin, kind of magical forest area for this first stage. And so a lot of stuff, as you can tell, is kind of like flora and fauna inspired. And so we wanted to kind of do our own twists on things. So on the right hand side there, you see the orchid queen, which is kind of like this large carnivorous plant that has kind of this shape of like a female figure as like its lure. And then this blue thing you see here that we call the ancient one, but all ears open for any better names that any users might think up. People call it the floaty horse. I don't know, but there's so that one's got a mouth in the middle of its chest. It's kind of floats and can go invisible. It's got these bells attached to its interesting horns. Yeah, so we're really happy with how the art turned out because it feels very unique and kind of our own.
I didn't even realize the mouth was there. That's so scary.
Yeah, me neither. I had to take a closer look. I was just pulling it up so that I could look a little bit closer. No, but I feel like the ancient one definitely gives like an ominous feel to it.
Yeah, like what's the evolutionary story behind that thing? Like how does it get to there? That's a good question.
Do you guys plan on having any lore for like almost like a bestiary, like an index of your monsters, so to speak?
Yes, we got started on one. We have not completed it yet. We're actually super inspired by like those old school like paper Nintendo game guides and game manuals. We created kind of a digital one for our Squires game, but we're looking forward to kind of creating a physical version with kind of a bestiary and lore behind the items and things like that. Yeah. I don't know if you guys remember, picking up a game from GameStop back in the day and like reading the manual on the way home, or like buying one of those game guides from GameStop for a game you couldn't beat that we
You
love
kidding
so
me?
much.
I still use the notes section on my Pokemon Yellow handbook.
Really, that's great. What a
That's right.
throwback.
That might be a little bit out of my age range there, but
Pokemon Yellow?
no, just the game
Oh, the
instructions
game
in general.
instruction. Yeah, yeah.
But it looks like Yeshi's got good 2 minutes on him starting out. And you said this is best of 3, right? So he's got to at least do 1 or 2 more of this.
Yeah, and there is one thing with there's kind of a visual bug with the timer in the top right there. When you use a potion, it kind of jumps ahead by 30 seconds. So it's reflected not in the score, but on your screen. So that's probably the discrepancy there a little bit between the times.
Gotcha. I do see he just jumped to like 11 minutes.
Yeah,
See that?
yeah.
So yeah, she's at a faster pace, but I guess that doesn't mean his score will be higher in the end, though.
Correct. Yeah, definitely. It'll get you a few extra points, but it's probably more important to finish with a lot of health is definitely a big factor. You get 1 point for each health point you have above 25, and you also get a bonus if you end up with max health at the end of the round as well.
Okay, so it's worth to use a potion right before you finish the match. Basically, would be the way
Yeah,
to max that.
it depends on which potion, because you do actually get 5 points for each potion unused. You could get an extra 15 points. But if you had maybe a health potion that heals you 7 health points, that's going to give you 7 points instead of 5. So you'd want to use that.
Right. So these guys got to do some math if they're really min-maxing here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure they're all aware of
Who have mapped out each of the maps each day on what is in each node, what are the best cards to take, what is the min-maxing strategy. We've got some players who have, including these two, spent 12 hours a day kind of figuring out each map. There's a lot to dive into.
Makes sense. They wouldn't be in the finals otherwise, I guess.
True. They've been grinding.
Now let's talk about these monsters right here. I can see that there's some things above them as well. And what does that mean?
The ones on the left on RGs.
On I guess on both of them,
Right.
because I can kind of see like right above the Orchid Queen. Is that like a 10?
Yeah. Yeah. So those are called intents.
I can
And
see
it's
it a little
what
bit better
the
on there.
enemy intends to do on their turn. And so, based off of that information, whether they're going to do damage, whether they're going to buff or debuff, whether they're going to summon a minion like this wolf just did on the right, then you'd kind of play your cards in a certain way based off of that information.
So what was the eyeball that was above their head?
Yeah, the eyeball is called scheming, or it's like a debuff that they would impose upon the player character. And so you can see on the right hand side there's kind of a broken shield underneath the character, and that is kind of affecting the amount of defense that they can put up. Each card now only does 75% of its intended defense amount.
And so if they die, then it's over, right? Or can they
Yeah,
die?
so the way we do deaths, if like they both don't beat the boss, if one person then finishes out that same level of combat without dying, then they'll win that round.
I think my money's on Yeshi.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same. I feel like, they're both equally using their potions pretty well though, and staying right around that 40 area, 40 health. And can you see how many nodes are on this map? This specific today's one?
Yeah, we'll have to double check when they pop back out to the map here in a sec. I want to say there are 10, with I think 6 monster battles. Yeah, we'll see in a second. Don't quote me.
It's too late. I already tweeted it with quotations. Oh. Sorry. And then I minted that tweet on chain, so now it's really you're screwed.
No, it's an open edition. People are minting it already. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Get fluked.
The amount of times I've heard that on Xbox Live, just too many to count.
I really like that the wolf with the thorns, and it's kind of brambly. It's like a bramble wolf.
Yeah, you're quite close to the actual name there right now, which is the Thorn Wolf. Once again, we're open to new naming conventions there. Bramble Wolf, I like that a lot. It's pretty good.
Yeah, bramble's like the more RPG term for the thorns,
Right.
No, that's pretty good. And what about the witches that we have on Yeshi's side over here?
Yeah, so those are our goblins. We have kind of like a melee goblin, which is the one with the orange hair. And then we've got the kind of ranged magic goblins, the ones that have the kind of green fumes coming out of their staffs. And then at the back right there is a sting fae. It's like a small fairy that has kind of stingers instead of feet.
How big's your guys' team, Fluke? Like internally, not counting, I guess like outside contract stuff.
Yeah, right. So we worked with a lot of outside contractors to do all of the kind of art and animation stuff. But now we have a core game dev team of 6 people. And we have our 2 co-founders, myself and my brother. And then we have an assortment of moderators, community managers, kind of partnership people who work, who have like Web 2 jobs, but work part-time on KOTE as well.
Nice. It's a family business.
Yes, it is. It is.
What does your brother do?
And I, we it helps to be, I think, so in tune with someone you're like working with as a business partner. Like my brother and I, we can get into arguments about everything, but like, 5 minutes later, it's like, water under the bridge because we've grown up together, and it's a good way to be able to kind of work together and do business together. Yeah.
Yeah, that unconditional business etiquette.
Yeah. Unconditional business love, I guess.
Yeah.
So can you explain at the top there their potions that they have remaining? I can see on Yeshi's there's 3 of them, but they look a little bit different than RG's at the top.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, so they picked up different potions in the merchant, and I think the one on the right-hand side of the screen at the top there on the right, we have a brain tonic, which allows you to draw 3 extra cards. In the middle, I think, is the spirit vial, which gives you 1 extra energy. And then on the left-hand side, I forget the exact name, but it gives you 1 dodge. It's like a levitation potion, I believe is what it's called. And 1 dodge means that you can just dodge 1 attack from an enemy. And then on the left-hand side, the purple one, I want to say that is a defense potion, if I'm not mistaken.
So how is it that Yeshi is able to be two battles ahead, I guess? Like, is he playing a more aggressive style, or just more actions per minute? What's the deal here?
Yeah, it might be a bit of a combination of he seems to be like playing his cards a bit more quickly. He kind of knows what it is, what his combos that he's going for, and slightly more aggressive style as well. Um, there's just kind of a lot of different ways to go about these different rounds. Whereas if you want to maybe lead with defense and try and keep a lot more health, or if you want to lead with offense and try and kind of take the monsters down before they start kind of whittling you down, just depends a lot on what the kind of luck of the draw is, on what cards you're getting on each of those five cards each kind of turn, and how you can kind of best play those based off of the intents that the enemies have.
This reminds me a lot of like the Axie adventure mode. And I haven't played Axie since like season 0, and it's been kind of some time now, but this definitely reminds me a little bit of it. Obviously they have a set map and they have set enemies, and there's obviously some metas that you can use to jump in there. But did you guys look at that for any inspiration at all?
No, I'm not actually familiar with the Axie Adventure mode. Of course, I know about the kind of original Axie gameplay with the what are they? Are the kind of monsters in Axie, are they called Axies? Is that the name of those floating kind of fluffy things?
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
like your character or your team. They're comprised of axes, and they're those little blobs that can be like fishes, birds, like plants and other things, but they mostly are just like ovals with legs. Um, and then the enemies, though, like once you go into adventure mode, this was something new that they had done for season 0, and I believe that they're still doing it. It's kind of a way to unlock like your first starter team. You have to finish it, or at least do like a few rounds to actually get into multiplayer. It's kind of just like a tutorial and a fun tutorial way to get into the game. But I would say the enemies are very different from the Axies themselves.
Okay. And then, so what I'm familiar with, where I've seen Axies on both sides of the screens, that's the traditional Axie PvP gameplay.
Yeah, that's the team of PvP and like leaderboard climbing gameplay. Yeah. I have not played in a while though, so I'm sure it's still kind of the same. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some more things, art like this, and I'm excited to hear some thoughts on like the lore behind these creatures here.
Yeah, for sure. I think it would be, we actually have a lore contest starting tomorrow that I haven't announced yet. And we're going to have players write lore about kind of anything in the KOT universe. So hopefully we'll get some good monster related lore. It's a good focus for sure.
So I guess we can see here that the potions have kind of altered their times a little bit, where looks like RG's at 19. She's at like 20. But they're both doing well on health. It looks like I don't know if they've used their potions. When we were talking, I wasn't really looking, but did Yeshi use both of his potions already? Both of those 2 other ones?
Yeah, Yeshi did use 2 potions during that fight right there. I think he saw 2 of those ancient ones, which can hit pretty hard. They can end up hitting for 22 damage each in 1 turn, so 44 total. So he kind of was like, okay, let's take 2 potions to start the fight here. Make sure I have 4 energy at the beginning of each turn, and kind of whittle them down more quickly. There's, it's all about kind of strategic trade-offs in Blightfell. It's like, do I use the potion here or do I save it for the 5 points at the end? If I don't use the potion here, am I going to take more than 5 extra points of damage, which is going to lose me those 5 points anyways? It's all about those trade-offs.
No, that's great. And let's talk about the monsters that he's facing right now, at least for Yeshi. I know we've seen the ancient ones, but I haven't seen this guy and the 2 that he had just summoned.
Yeah, so this is one of our 2 bosses for stage 1. This big horse, cow, mushroom thing is called the fungal brute, and he summons his 2 kind of fungal minions there.
Great name.
Yeah, fungal brute. Yeah, we like that. And so I think we're going to turn this specific monster into a plushie. I think it just has great plushie vibes. So if anybody wants to have a fungal brute, maybe not too oversized. I think, a 5-foot fungal brute might be an issue, but something, a foot size long could be cool.
No, I like it. I think that's a great idea because you're right. It does have great plushie ability. I feel like none of the others that we've seen yet, they're all very spiky and, like you said, like the bristles and the thorns on them. But I feel like this one definitely is a good contender.
Yeah, because it looks, at its current size, a little bit intimidating. But if you shrink it down to a little plush pup, that's going to be cute. And then if those little horns, if you made it so it's like a little feathery.
This guy knows his plushies. Eli, can we
Yeah.
consult with you when we go through the process to create these plushies?
You can. When I used to compete in Hearthstone tournaments, I'd win a lot of plushies from Blizzard, and I don't have all of them anymore. But there were some bad plushies, man. Bad textures, bad use of the fillings, But my Hearthstone pillows, I got 3 of those. I still use them to this day.
Wow, so you played in some legit tournaments.
Yeah, in Canada at least, as legit as those tournaments can be.
That's funny. It's like the off-brand Canadian Hearthstone is something.
There's a Canadian specific version, not just the server. The language is different.
Yeah, there's like some A's in there and stuff, just slightly different language.
Yeah.
So did you say you did local tournaments, or were they, did they have Americans in them?
I did travel. I traveled for some. I went to Montreal and Toronto for a couple, and the bigger ones. There's one called LAN ETS. It's the bigger one on the East Coast, and it's very fun. There were like thousands of people. There were some pro streamers in the tournament. I didn't cross paths with any of them in the tournament itself, but it was cool to see that. You just set up your computer, and then on either side of you is another gamer competing in a different game altogether. And long day. You need a lot of Red Bull and other stuff.
So is it looking like Yeshi just did? Is this the same one, or is he finishing up? Oh, okay, it looked like he kind of went back into the same map, but maybe I was looking at RG's. But,
yeah, I think
they're
that
kind
was
of like
RG
catching up
just
to each
dropping
other
into the boss fight. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say RG is probably about three minutes behind. But of course, he has a chance to catch up here by playing the correct cards and kind of burning through the boss more quickly. Looks like Yeshi is about halfway through the boss so far.
So when Yeshi beats this boss, does it then calculate the score, or there's more he has to do?
Yeah, as soon as he beats the boss, we'll see the kind of scoreboard pop up on his screen. We'll see the different achievements he got and his top score as well, and then we'll note that down and we'll wait for RG to finish his.
Cool. Let's go! Very exciting. And I guess it's obviously you. I guess you haven't been calculating it throughout watching this, have you?
No,
That'll be tough.
I will say these guys probably even know the score almost better than I do at this point, after playing it so much these past 3 weeks. Okay, so yeah, 401.
401.
It's pretty solid. So he finished with full health, which is huge. He's got that plus 60 points for healthy.
Lean and mean.
Lean and mean means that you have less than a certain amount of cards in your deck at the end. So it's kind of working with a smaller deck size. I think RG will probably end up with that as well. Such upgrade, much wow means he's got a certain amount of upgraded cards in his deck. Save for later is those 2 extra potions. And then speed run is how quickly he finished it. So ending up with 401. Let's see if yeah, it's going to be tough for RG to come back here because he now has less health and he's behind time-wise. So I don't know if there's much that he can do to make it up. He also has 1 less potion.
Well, that's why it's the best 2 out of 3.
Yep, best 2 out of 3.
The brute kind of looks like it's got like, are those like stitches that are holding it together? Is that like some arcane light along the lines on it? See what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like kind of right under, like on his chest and then on his shoulder.
Yeah. If you can see my mouse, it's kind of like pointing at the little.
Yeah, I can kind of see it too. It's like a glow within the fur,
Yeah.
like in the cracks and seams.
Yeah, the idea is kind of that like this whole forest has been tainted by this blight, and so these monsters are kind of like infected or like mutating over generations because of it. And so he's got these kind of blue mushrooms that are kind of sprouting out of him, and also this kind of like glowing cracks to him. So he's probably not very healthy, and maybe that's what makes him so aggressive. Or maybe it's the fact that the knights are entering their environment unwanted. It's hard to say. Maybe a bit of both.
And maybe I've just been playing a lot of Zelda, but I'm curious, like, is there going to be, a build up to, the cause of the blight or the big boss? Is there any idea of like moving in that? Oh, looks like we have a 404 from RG.
All right.
Okay. Where did that happen?
Nice.
60. He made it up somewhere, but such
Yeah.
upgrade, much wow.
Yeah, he's got 10 more points for such upgrade. Let's see if I can have him scroll down. Yeah, that might be the difference there. Let's see.
Because he has less on save for later. He's got less on healthy.
Yeah.
Where else did he make it up?
It's got to be a little bit down in the bottom. It looks like speed run he got a good amount, but I can't.
Still less though.
Does it look
there
like
must be
less?
something at the bottom there. Get that man to scroll down.
I pinged him in Discord right now. Let's see.
Yeah, there's got to be something underneath speedrun that is substantially higher for him to be ahead. That's just math.
Yeah, because I mean, at this point, they're down like 30 or so. Like in healthy, he's down by a good bit. 24. He's got to make up 24. 14. That's pretty close, actually. Oh, there we go.
So what's Popper? That's the only.
Yeah, so Popper is the way that you spend your gold in the game, and he just got plus 35 for that. And I think it's based off of what you buy, depending on if it's a card or a potion. But I don't know if that's the exact correct showing of Popper. Maybe a visual bug. I'm going to have our devs look at the score behind the scenes as well in our database. Yeah, we get plus 25 with the Popper. Okay. Well, regardless, let's go back to starting from the beginning here and let's play round 2. I'll double check in the background and see what.
Did Yeshi, can Yeshi scroll down? I want to see if he got Popper.
I don't believe he did. And I'll have him scroll down as well.
And I guess it could be. I feel like I saw Yeshi spend a lot in those markets. And do you think it's like saving that coin?
Yeah, I think it's the way that they spent their money
25.
in the market, but they both have an equal amount of gold at the end. So I'm gonna have to double check that behind the scenes. Regardless, we'll go to round 2 when they're
All
both
right.
back here.
All right, we'll spin round 2 and then get to the bottom of this. See if RG scammed his way to 404. I just loaded up my Knights of the Ether there, just looking at my custom knights. So fresh. Did you guys ask the players not to use their skins, or these guys just didn't have any?
Yeah, so actually this is on a private server on testnet, so
Okay.
there's only these default skins. Yeah.
Fair enough. Some of the skins are pretty cool. I think my favorite part of the knight aesthetics are in terms of the Genesis Knight collection. I like some of the shield designs.
Yeah, me as well. I think the helmets and the shields, I think, are my favorite parts of both the NFT and the in-game characters, because they're also the thing I think that gives the most character to your character. Since they do take up so much kind of space on the screen, the shields do, and then the helmet is kind of your, the identity of the character. Yeah, that was a really fun NFT collection to put together. We worked with 3 artists out of Vietnam who their specialty was kind of creating characters for Dungeons and Dragons players and doing kind of commission work for people who wanted to see their Dungeons and Dragons characters, RPG characters, kind of come to life. And so we really loved their kind of like painterly, illustrative RPG style. And yeah, we spent, I think, 4 months overall putting all the art together, putting all the combinations together. That was a really fun process.
No, that's awesome. And I felt like when I was younger, I don't know, I wouldn't say an obsession, but I really liked gladiators and I really liked knights, and I think that kind of what launched me into like Skyrim RPG era. But I think I love the identity of having the helmets and having that kind of customization to it, because I always imagined if I was a gladiator, I would have the sickest looking helmet on, and
Yeah.
I do like how that one's designed right there, the one that Yeshi has on.
Yeah, that's like the classic like Templar helmet that you've probably seen. And there's like a lot of memes around that helmet as well that like already exist in the interwebs, and so we definitely had to include that one. All right, so I am just getting word from our box in the sky that the popper, and this is a pretty big leak for people who may not know how this score works, maybe including myself, which is that using a legendary card, having a legendary card in your deck, negates the ability to score popper because you've taken a princely or kingly card. So the fact that Yeshi took that autonomous weapon as his reward for the second to last fight, that legendary gold card, that disqualified him for getting popper, and that was the points difference there.
Damn, so it's not worth it. Don't take the legendary items.
Don't take the legendary item if you think it's not going to get you more points, because maybe Yeshi needs the yet legendary card to escape with, 20 more health, which would help him to get to full health to get that healthy bonus. So it's all about that trade-off. There's a lot of math these guys are doing on the fly, actually, and I'm pretty astounded at their abilities here.
Yeah, a lot of card counting here. All right, they're gonna spin it.
All right, yeah, I'll give them the word. If you guys are both ready, you can go ahead and start round 2.
Imagine if I could just press play for them. I have like a
So this is going to be a new map, right?
This is actually going to be the same map. And so what's
Okay.
important about that is that a lot of this game is about, at least for the tournament right now, is learning the strategy as you go through the map, but also how you react on the first play through the map. So this way we get to see them go on a fresh map where they don't know what's coming next, picking cards based off of what they think may be best. But now they've had a chance to play through the map. And so they know a little bit more of what's coming. And so they have an ability to kind of refine their strategy. So it'll be interesting to see how they play differently this round.
And what did they do in the very beginning there? It looks like they upgraded one of their cards.
Yeah, so that is a Spirit Well, and it's a node where you can either choose to rest and restore health points or upgrade a single card. And so since it's at the very beginning, this one is specifically about which card will they choose to upgrade.
So because of the popper thing, like that was legit. RG won that one by 3 points.
Yeah, by 3. So I bet we'll see probably Yeshi maybe not take the legendary card this round. It'll be interesting to see if he takes it again to kind of get through quicker or not. I think if maybe the legendary card was something that came up in one of the first combats, you might think more seriously about taking it, because then it's going to kind of speed you through more so. But if it's the thing that you take right before the boss, it's probably not getting you as much value as those 25 points for keeping hands off of the legendary cards.
Yeah, that's a lot of points.
And so if it's the same map, is it the same monsters? Because I felt like I haven't seen the ones on Yeshi's screen yet.
Yeah, it'll be the same monsters. So with these 3, I think maybe we were just kind of chatting through these the first time. But yeah, we have the ground moth, the spore monger, and then the bark charger was the one that was just killed on the right-hand side.
Cool. And can we dive into the cards a little bit? I know they're going by kind of fast, but the 0 cost, and can you just go through like the categories? Because I can see there's like attack, there's charge, and defend cards.
Yeah, for sure. It's not the most beginner-friendly stream because these guys move pretty quickly. But so you'll see the kind of the white circle with the number in the top left-hand corner of each cards. That's the energy cost. 0 is 0 energy, 1 is 1 energy, and an X means however much energy you have left at the moment you use that card. And then, yeah, there's basically, I would say, 4 types of cards, which are attacking cards, defending cards, buffing cards, and debuffing cards. And so we're seeing on the right-hand side here, Yeshi is upgrading Turtle. And so when you upgrade cards, they either maybe cost less energy or they do more of a certain effect. They upgrade something about them. So he upgraded Turtle, so it still costs 0 energy, but now it's doubling your defense at the end of this turn and the next turn. So it's a status that lasts for 2 turns, which is a pretty powerful card, probably a good card choice to upgrade.
So Fluke, when you're playing this, I guess outside of a tournament context, not on a private test net, does all your stuff save? You keep building your deck, kind of thing. Your progress in the campaign doesn't reset.
Right. So yeah, at the moment, pretty much none of the progress you're seeing here carries over. You're going to start with different cards on a different map each day. You don't get to keep those cards. You don't get to build your deck before you go in. It's dependent on what that kind of day's deck is. The things that you do keep, which we're not seeing here since it's on testnet, is that every time you beat that boss, that fungal brute at the end, you get between 1 and 3 gear pieces, which you then attach to your character. And those will kind of be the RPG side of our game, which is that they're going to have different mechanics. You'll attach them in unique ways and kind of bind them to your character to set up different builds, which will affect kind of how you play through. But you're not going to be building your deck or having any kind of holdover of like the gold you've earned in game here.
Okay. Is there plans to have it so like you can deck build and keep your cards and keep upgrading and stuff like that and advance into harder content in the story?
Yeah. So there's definitely like a few models we're looking at. We're definitely more focused on like completing the core game loop as is now and getting all kind of 3 stages set up first, and then also adding in the kind of functionality of the gear pieces and their buffs in game. But we're also looking into something like building a deck, being able to download different card packs, maybe being able to choose a few of the cards that you swap in and out at the beginning. Um, Maybe not leaning fully into the full kind of deck building pre-game mode like Hearthstone might have. It's something that we'll experiment with for sure. And also on that note, so we're kind of decentralizing a little bit more here after the end of Midsummer Madness. We haven't talked about this too much. We've dropped this off a little bit in some other AMAs and stuff, but the idea is not to decentralize fully into like a total DAO, but to give more transparency into what our development process is, give players more of a say in where we should kind of be focusing some of our development resources, whether that means that they want to see more monsters, or do we want to see more animations for the night, or what type of monsters do we want to integrate into Act 3, and how should that art look? Giving the players kind of more of a say in the creative direction, while still holding on to a little bit of autonomy in the sense of like planning and developing a game on like an organized timeline is like a heroic feat as is. And so being able to kind of have decentralization with guardrails to be able to keep things on track, that's what we're going for a little bit.
Sounds like you're describing Arbitrum with the guardrails of decentralization from the early days.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how that might be an analogy for how Arbitrum's decentralization worked.
Yeah, so when they first launched, first of all, there was no DAO, no governance token, and the sequencers are, not everyone can validate and run the sequencer. So, the first step was, building up the two products, Nova and One, and then also having, the Nitro stack, which I believe launched at the end of the summer of last year, and they're both on the Nitro stack, which made them quite a bit faster. And so once the token launched, then that's removing a bit of the guardrails. You're letting the ecosystem, which has now grown and proven itself and built a fundamental community and foundation for what matters to the Arbitrum ecosystem. And now people can kind of keep pushing it in that direction or whatever direction they want, since it's a DAO. And then eventually they want to decentralize the sequencer, which it's not an easy feat, but that's another guardrail that's down the road. And there's other things that could be done as well. But yeah, it was a similar analogy you used.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think especially in kind of like in early stages of development for like a business or a game or a chain, being able to make like quick and somewhat centralized decisions might be the kind of the difference between scaling correctly or going in the right kind of in the right lane. But yeah, it's really cool to see you guys as you've kind of caught your stride and scaled to a certain level to start kind of taking off some of those guardrails one by one and opening some of that up to the community. It's cool to see.
Yeah. I find that with some DAOs that launch right out the gate, there's nothing wrong with that either. But you have to sacrifice a bit of a certain, I guess, I don't know, not centralized isn't the word. And I guess you can build just as fast whether you're decentralized right out the gate or slowly remove guardrails, but I guess it depends. There's no rules to it, I guess.
Yeah,
No, I feel like having a centralized, starting centralized and moving kind of towards that decentralized is definitely the way to go. I feel like, starting out, you kind of have to have your vision because it is, still moving. No, it is good. But I would say, it's definitely good to be decentralized as you move forward and as you have a community to rely on their opinions and, have that transparency. So you don't always have to be shipping out updates and things like that. They can kind of see it for themselves as well.
Yeah, and I guess it can depend on if when you first launch, whatever the project is, if you already have a following to begin with. Because if you already do, then you can have a more effective decentralized ecosystem right at the gate. But if you don't really have a huge community or a huge following, then it's really hard to make decentralization or governance like effective and diverse. But there's so many structures to governance and decentralization and blockchain already that even though it's all still quite experimental, it can look so different. I know ours for the blockchain for Arbitrum is a little more complex than a lot of governance systems, but you kind of have to for this big of an ecosystem with so many players involved. I just realized both streamers
honestly,
are
this
muted.
looks like, yeah, I can't hear their music. But I would say, they're not very far apart, and I can see that he's kind of moving through fifth stage, going into the sixth. The health is kind of similar. And so if they keep all their gold until the end, is there also like points for that?
Yeah, if you have a certain level of gold, I want to say it's 200. You also get a bonus as well.
And how much do you earn like every round? It looks, I can see that theirs is going up.
Yeah, it's totally dependent on that map. So some maps we like don't give any gold because there's no merchant for you to spend it at. One map, preparation is key, is what it was called, and we gave you 500 gold in the first combat, and then we put a merchant right at the beginning and let you kind of choose your own path and spend that gold as you'd like. So it is just dependent, kind of on what we set that metric to for that map.
Could have been cool to throw a random map at them for one of these matches, so they have no prep.
Yeah, I mean, this one they didn't know going in the first round, and we do have these more kind of like larger auto-generated maps that are comprised of many different routes and take about 45 minutes, and that's kind of like the core like base map. And we've kind of gone in a different direction with Midsummer Madness, which was creating these handcrafted maps each day. The thinking behind not doing one of the random maps for this was that there's just more RNG involved about which kind of path you take, and it's just kind of up to a little bit more of luck of which direction you go. And so we wanted to kind of pit these two against each other, against the same monsters, starting out with some of the same cards, and just let them kind of make these smaller decisions as they go. But it will be really interesting to see maybe like a larger tournament with these larger auto-generated maps. And see how people kind of go about that. I know, we did have 2 auto-generated maps during 2 of the days of Midsummer Madness, and seeing some of the drawings that people made to keep up with what is in this node and how much gold do I get over here and what are the card rewards. There's a lot of just like studying and work that went into kind of min-maxing each of these maps, and I guess these folks just wouldn't have the time to do that during kind of the an hour-long stream here.
And outside of one of these tournaments, I know Gaspode had said something a little bit about it when he was going, because I think he has like 2 blessed villagers and then a knight, and then he's doing like 8 runs a day. Do some of these people, like when they're playing, do they get 1 run and then they make like they try to make a map out of it?
Yeah. So what you can do, and this is kind of some pro tips for some of our listeners, is that default villager that they're playing as right now, actually, that is in everybody's game without even kind of minting anything. That thing gets unlimited runs. It doesn't get any loot, but you can basically take it through the map, go through each lane, figure out what is dropping, what enemies are happening each lane, and then go back in and play with your legit characters that get scores on the leaderboard and loot and kind of min max it from there. I think that's the strategy we've seen employed a lot these past few weeks.
Something I like to ask a lot of, founders and games in general is, you had talked about what has happened in the past 6 months, in the past 2 months, but, what is most exciting for you guys in the next like 3 months or even 6 months? And then where do you guys see this going in, like, let's say a year? Let's pretend the bull run's coming back, a year from now, you guys are still building this out. What does it look like? Kind of a two-parter.
Yeah, wow. Well, so for the next 6 months, kind of this back half of 2023, we have two more events like this planned. One kind of smaller scale one coming up around Halloween, and then one more larger scale one that will be around midwinter. Midwinter Mania is a name I've seen thrown around in the chat. I don't know if we'll stick with that or not, but similar idea here with a few weeks long. Being able to earn loot pieces. In between now and then, there will be a lot of focus on kind of expanding the core game loop, which will be adding in stage 2, adding in these different mechanics for the different gear pieces, working on the community map tool. So in the same way that we've been able to create maps handcrafted for each of these days, we're going to be opening up that tool to the public and allowing them to make their own map crawls with lots of different variability, and have a space kind of similar like Fortnite creative maps where you can go in and try other people's maps that they've made, and post your own as well. So we're really looking forward to that because that's kind of a big part of our push to be more kind of co-creative with our community, that user-generated content. So that's going to be really fun. And then for the events, we'll have some special skins, some special cosmetics you can earn, things like that. And then for the second part of your question, a year from now, we want to have the full kind of core single player game loop finished, which would be 3 stages, all of the kind of different gear pieces with their own mechanics, integrated potions and trinket utility from the Squire side of our game, which is a whole other kind of rabbit hole I won't go into here. But and then also working on the kind of demo version of what our PvP game might look like. Which we've talked about a little bit. It is something that we have kind of a large kind of 40-page game concept document drafted up, but we have not started on development yet because we're focused on kind of finishing the core single player loop. But that's going to be also a big part of what our kind of larger offering is, something that's going to be maybe a little more Web 2.5. I think that players would, coming from a Web 2 space, really enjoy. We like to think of it as a mashup between kind of Slay the Spire, Escape from Tarkov, and Mario Party, which is kind of a wild combo. But the idea would basically be, in a quick overview, which is kind of 8 to 10 players on the same map in a kind of circular structure, starting from the outside, moving towards the center, fighting monsters as they go, but also running in and clashing 1v1 and fighting knight versus knight, with the kind of like blight creeping in from the outside in a similar way that a storm might creep in on Fortnite, so forcing players closer and closer to the center, portals to escape in the middle of the map, but also these kind of like handcrafted maps with puzzles and certain routes in the same way you might see a map crafted for Mario Party. That's kind of the vision there.
No, that's awesome. And I like how games are kind of moving towards that UGC component and including the community, including gamers, because I feel like that's kind of what makes a lot of these current games so popular. You got Zelda, and then of course you have GTA with their role play and other things that you can do. So many other, be in a community within the game and have like a whole, I don't know, I guess life in terms of like RPG or like the role playing. But I do love that you can add like the creative component to it and give them a sense of like ownership in that sense too.
Yeah, well said. I know I have some really fond memories of like making maps in Halo's Forge system back in the day and things like that. Like I love
That's a
any
blast.
any way that a game can like enable the user's creativity. I think we want to lean into that because that's a big part of why we create games is as an outlet to be creative and to create art and to share that experience with other people, right? And so if we can give our users that same ability, that's something we definitely want to spend time on and focus on.
I don't know if you guys have seen, Microsoft has won its case, so they can officially acquire Activision Blizzard.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's gonna be exciting to see what comes from that. I feel like they're not either of them are in the best positions in terms of gaming. I think they were holding on to Halo pretty tightly, but
Yeah.
and I was just I don't know. This is definitely a personal opinion, but PlayStation is just whooping Xbox in in all senses.
Well, I currently have a PlayStation and a Nintendo Switch, so
Same.
I guess I unintentionally agree. But in like high school, I definitely had the Xbox 360 and didn't have a PlayStation. But
No, I
I feel like
feel
the
like
tides have
that was the
changed.
progression of everybody. I kind of went from I think my first ever console, and that kind of speaks to how old I am, was an Xbox 360. So it was like my first ever like my
Damn.
own. Yeah, it was the Xbox 360, and then I upgraded to like the PS3, and then I got my first ever big purchase was my PS4. So I've been PlayStation for a while.
I think the grays on my beard just got grayer. I think my first one was it was either Super Nintendo or the if you want to count the original Game Boy, like not the color, but the one before it. If you want to count that
Oh,
as
the
a
one
console.
before color. I think that's the color was like the oldest system I had. That's because my brother was older than me, and so he had that.
Yeah, I think we're on a similar timeline, Eli. I had the Super Nintendo as well and that original Game Boy. I think we're
I
the
was
starter pack.
I was born in '92, so that gives you an idea.
Yeah, 93 here. So, yeah, same timeline.
I don't use my Game Boy Color. I still have it. I usually use my Advance SP just because of the backlight. Easier on the eye, easier to see.
That's cool that you still have it, though. I wish I still had some of my old consoles. I think we gave away some of our old consoles along with our big binder full of Pokemon cards, and I'm still regretting that decision. Who
Don't
knows what we had in there?
don't remind me of that kind of stuff. I my one of my best friends just had their bachelor party last weekend, and we opened a whole box of the new Pokemon card set. And
Nice.
he has a binder for every set, and he was just like plugging in the ones he needed, and it's just hilarious.
Ours were given to like a kindergarten, preschool, and as you can imagine, that during summer camp, those got ripped up, got played with, and they were done.
Yeah, because
Oh,
you
man.
kids use them as like action figures. They like take the card and make it move.
And it looks like these guys are neck and neck, at least in this one. It looks like RG is a little bit behind in terms of time, but I think they're doing pretty good. It looks like RG's character is a little bit more buffed. Can you explain those buffs there a little bit that are directly under them?
Yeah, so on the left-hand side, starting from the left, we have Resolve, which increases the amount of damage you do with attack cards. In the middle there, we have that shield that's Fortitude, which increases the amount of defense or armor you get when you use defend cards. And then the next one is kind of like a man bending back in like a Neo pose, dodging bullets, and that is dodge. And so each time the enemy attacks, you get to dodge that attack. And then he's actually got a debuff there now as well, which is kind of like a broken heart, which allows the enemy to deal more damage against him. And there's one more on the right-hand side, all the way on the right there. Looks like a turtle shell, and that's turtling, which means that at the end of the turn, you double the amount of defense that you have.
So is this map set up that it's like you actually could die if you don't know what you're doing, or can you just you'll have a lower score if you don't know what you're doing, but you'll probably still get through it.
No, I think a lot of players would definitely die on this map. I think these guys pretty much know how to use the best combo of the 5 cards they get every time they get dealt a hand. And a lot of other players would kind of not know exactly the right order to use those cards, or which enemy to target those cards on, or how to deal with the intents as well. In the previous matches, we've had even some of these top tier players die, on the third or fourth combat during some of these maps. So yeah, this is just, these guys are both pretty good. They're playing their cards how they should be and making it to kind of the final round.
Nice. And I don't know if we touched on it or not, but it's one of the more fundamental things. This is their resources on the left here, 3 out of 3, how much they can spend on their cards per turn.
Correct. Yeah, that's how much energy they have. And it's kind of the question of, okay, how do I spend this energy each turn? And then like this card he's playing now with the X on it, that just plays however much energy you have left at that moment.
And so if you have 0, you can't play an X, can you?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, he got 420.
420.
Okay.
Right.
There we go.
Right, that's a pretty good score. I think
That's a very good
RG is
score.
going to be pretty close here. He's just about a minute or two behind. See how he finishes it out.
So I'm assuming Yeshi got Popper.
Yes, she did get Popper this round. He's
Which
probably kicking himself for taking that
technically
card
means
first round.
he lost points in some other ways because he would have had less. Maybe the legendary helped with the HP and stuff and the speed.
It looks like save for later is a little bit less this time too.
Yeah, he's only got 1 potion instead of 3. Yeah, so 444.
Ooh. 444.
There we go. RG. So that's 2.
That's it.
That's it.
Wow.
RG
I
mucked
feel like
him.
Yeshi was a little bit of a favorite as we were jumping into this, but I think RG definitely came back and made the right decision with that legendary card in the first one. And what did he do so well in this one to get such a high score?
That's a good question. 66. Such upgrade, much wow. Save for later. That's the biggest difference, I think.
Yeah, it looks like he had, so that's 4 potions.
I think the speed wasn't
Speed is
wasn't
1
as
less
important.
than Yeshi.
Speed definitely was not as important in this one. You can get a lot done in 1 minute, and that's just 1 point.
Yeah, correct. And then the speed probably comes more into play on longer maps when you have more of a chance to kind of min-max that. Here it's all about the kind of playing towards those strengths of what the achievements are, and also finishing with max health, super important as well.
Wow, well done.
What does RG win?
And
Yes, you win.
Yeah, so RG wins 750 magic, and Yeshi for second place wins 250 magic. So both of these guys are winners here. Don't get it twisted. Just to make it to this point was pretty amazing. Yeah, so let's give them a nice golf clap. Well done, RG and Yeshi.
Well done, sir. Well
Great
done.
games.
Riveting. Yeshi kind
that
of
was
got
great. It
screwed
makes
on
me want to
round
jump
1
in, but they both did really well.
with not knowing about Popper. That's true. Yeshi kind of. Well, it's hard to say. Would Yeshi have. If Yeshi didn't take the legendary, the first one, would he have still beaten him?
Yes,
Because-
I believe that was the clincher, was Popper there. So Yeshi hadn't taken that card. And then if the second round, if he had maybe upgraded more cards and kept more potions, that would have made it more even as well.
Well, congrats to
Yeah,
both.
because then he would have had to make up 25 points because the Popper, I believe, was 25 in that last one, which definitely made the difference, and that was only 2 points. Well, I guess he would still have had to he didn't make up 2 extra points. What if it was a tie?
Yeah, if they had tied, that's a good question. We hadn't seen a tie yet in this tournament. We probably would have had to run that round back and have them go again to kind of clinch that tie. Yeah. Well, that was pretty fun. I gotta say, that was probably tough for a brand new user to watch and see how quickly they were moving on both screens. But it was cool to see, as someone who's played the game, a few times, how quickly these guys move. And I mean, they're better players than I am. I can say that pretty for certain here. Yeah, it was very fun to watch them play through that map, and And we do have our winner of the very first Blightfell tournament ever, which is RG. So that's pretty amazing. Hopefully many more tournament winners to come in the future.
Free airdrop nights to all viewers. Only few of us are here. Just reading the chat.
I like, shoot your shot. You got to shoot your shot sometimes. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I really love this this home screen, like this background here. I would love that as without the the play and the leaderboard, just the artwork as an animated desktop wallpaper.
Yeah, totally. We have some pretty great kind of splash art like this. We'll have to put a little pack together for people if they want to kind of come by the Discord and download it and use some of the art. That's a good idea.
I would 100% have this as a background.
Cool.
That is pretty cool, and I feel like this is awesome. I think it would be great to hear, for anyone, if they are new to watching, if they don't know where to go, how do they get involved? How do they get started? How do they play, and maybe even get a night?
Yeah, for sure. So I think kind of the two kind of home bases for Knights of the Ether are Twitter and Discord. So that Twitter is at Knights of the ETH, and the Discord is discord.gg/KOTE. You can find all of that in the profile, or the profile of our Twitter page. If you're interested in buying a knight or minting a Blessed Villager, the Blessed Villager mint is open for a little over 24 hours. And then you can also go purchase a knight or a squire from the treasure marketplace.
Awesome. What's next for you guys the next couple weeks? Are you guys going to any of the conferences this summer?
I am not going to ETHCC, but it looks very fun. I am actually speaking at a conference in Lugano in September, and I'm going to go attend a couple other kind of Web3 conferences out there as well. Since I'm going across the pond, might as well make the most of it there. What about you, Eli?
We'll be in Paris for ETHCC. We have Arbitrum Day, so that's going to be a full, not even a side event. It's just a full day of talks, panels. There'll be an indoor section with kind of like. I believe it kind of looks like a classroom where everyone can sit and watch the panels and the talks. And then outside there'll be a huge tent or something with, the coffee, the food, networking, merch, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be really fun. It's our first one. And, a lot of projects signed up to speak and be on panels. So excited to facilitate that and see what the turnout's like. I think we already have over a few hundred RSVPs. So it's gonna be bumping.
Wow, that's exciting.
That's awesome. And you said that's at ETHCC?
Yeah, it's happening separately on the 19th during the day. Yeah.
Gotcha. Very cool. No, that's super exciting. Yeah, I'm not going into any conferences this year, but if anyone's watching and you guys want to go spam Corel and say, send Jay to Paris, feel free to do that. You have my full blessing. We'll set up a really cool event.
Let's get Jay to Paris for ETHCC. Represent Treasure.
Exactly. But yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on here. This has been awesome so far.
Might see Corel in Toronto next month.
Oh, nice.
A lot of the treasure guys are out there.
Yeah, there's
a conference happening out there, or just a meet and greet type thing?
There's a couple conferences in Toronto. I think there's one at the end of. I think it's the end of this month. I don't know if it was the end of last month. And then there's one in August called Futurist.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I will say, as we kind of wrap up the stream here, guys, it was really cool to have this hosted by Eli and Arbitrum and Jay and Treasure. I appreciate both of you for coming on and taking the time and helping to kind of commentate this very first Blightfell tournament. So it's really exciting for us to be at this place, and I appreciate you both being here to share in this memory.
Heck yeah. I'm down to, for people who want a more beginner-friendly Knights of the Ether stream, we should do a playthrough. Player's going to play.
Yeah, I'd love that for sure. We should get on here and kind of do like a walkthrough first-timers guide. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, I'll take it nice and slow, like a noob. I'll die on purpose a couple times just to show what that's like,
Nice.
On purpose. It won't be
on purpose. Yes.
Yeah,
Right, cool.
I'd love to jump on another time too and play through it a little bit. This has been awesome. I appreciate you guys for having me on, and it's been great so far. And super excited for Knights of the Ether and what you guys are building. It's really unique, and I think you guys have a really good vision for what you want to build. So I think it's a great thing to have.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the first games that caught my eye on Arbitrum. I think back in the fall I saw it and was lucky enough to get a little play test in before you guys went live, and I was like, damn, this is sick. It's like a classic, just a classic indie RPG, like dungeon crawler in a way. Really liked it.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Really glad to hear that. Looking forward to another stream in the future, definitely.
All right, sounds good. We'll see you all later. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you in the next one.